Hey guys, I'm Red. You're interested in Steadicam and you're finally ready to empty out your savings and get yourself a rig. But there are some very important steps to take before you do that. But before we get to that, everything in this video is my opinion. And although there are a lot of brands mentioned in this video, none of them are sponsors, and I will link to everything in the description below. And if you like these videos, please like, comment, and subscribe to make them worth my time. So the first thing you should do before buying your rig is to pick up the book by Jerry Holloway, the Steadicam Operator's Handbook. It's an awesome book and will teach you a ton of new things. The second thing you should do is take one of the workshops that are offered. If it's a bronze or a silver, if you're not really sure if you want to do Steadicam, you just want to try on a rig for a little while and learn the basics, you can try a couple of different rigs, usually the lower end rigs, like the Aero 15, the Aero 30, the Zephyr, and see if you're even interested in doing it. If you're really serious about it, then you can try the Gold Workshop, which is a week-long class. It's pretty expensive, but I think it's definitely worth it. You get to try on most models of the big rigs and really learn what you're talking about before you put your money into a rig. And these workshops take place all over the world, but they are fairly rare. They're usually once a year around where you're going to be. I would also recommend taking classes from Steadicam Lessons. Greg is super smart, and although I wouldn't go to him for your very first lesson to learn how to balance a rig or something like that, getting expert advice one-on-one is really valuable and is really more seen when you already know the basics. I guess I should bring him up too, since he's going to be here about half the video. This is my cat Pixel. The next thing you should start doing is research what rigs you're interested in. Now, I personally like the Tiffin rigs. If you're looking for a lower end rig, something that only carries like 15-30 pounds, maybe you're not using a lot of big heavy Alexa cameras, you're using mostly DSLRs or something like that, you're going to want to look into the lower end rigs, and I think Tiffin's rigs are really good for that. Remember, when you're considering camera weight, to take into account not just the camera and the lens, but also the matte box, cards, any monitors that might be on it, really anything that is the camera built. If you're looking for a big rig, I would look at either the Tiffin models, the M1 or the M2. They're sort of, in my opinion, the technologically advanced rigs. You can also look at the GPI Pro rigs, which are super strong and robust. Any of those rigs are going to be great. And the XCS rigs are really good too. I don't particularly like them, but everybody that has one loves them. Arri also makes the Artemis rig, which I would not get unless you plan on upgrading to the Trinity. But if you want to start with a big rig and then move up to the Trinity at some point, then it sort of makes sense to get that rig. And although these rigs are really expensive, you'll gain the money back over rentals over the years. And they hold their value really well, so when it does come to sell it, you'll get a lot of your money back. But you'll get even more of your money back if you buy the rig used initially. And there are several places online to find used rigs, and I'll link to them in the description. So when you're buying a used rig, they do still cost a lot of money. So one of the best and safest ways to do this is to have the seller send the rig to the manufacturer, say Tiffin if you're buying a Tiffin rig. They will look over the rig, make sure everything works properly, and then they'll take the money from you, they'll give it to the seller, and then send you the rig. And you'll be sure that everything works properly. Another great way to save money on a big rig is to get something older, maybe the Tiffin Master Series. It's an older rig that doesn't have modern power outputs or HD SDI down the post, but there are workarounds for this and you will save a lot of money, and over time you can slowly upgrade things like the arm, the vest, and the sled eventually. Also, if you're buying an older used rig, you might have a couple of issues with getting things repaired. And there are people that will fix them, but it's not as easy to do as just going to the manufacturer and dropping off something that they're still making parts for. So one of the benefits of buying a new rig is not only you know it's going to work, you also get a warranty and a relationship with the company, which is pretty important when you're going to need them to repair the rig over the course of your career. You're also going to need to pick out an arm. So with the big rigs, you can get either the Tiffin arms, the G70 or the G50, or a Pro arm, really any of them are good. And also the X-Arm by Flowcine is worth looking into. Now you're also going to need to pick out a vest, and the vest is obviously the most personal thing to you. It is the thing that's connected to your body, and it is often the first thing purchased if you're building up a kit slowly, because you don't really want to borrow somebody else's vest that they're sweating in all day. I personally use the Exo vest made by Tiffin, but also the Pro vests are loved. And the Walther Clausen vests are really liked too, if you're looking for a back-mounted vest. Also, Flowcine makes a vest that looks pretty interesting. I haven't tried it out yet, but is worth looking into. When buying something new from the manufacturer, you'll often find that buying the vest, the arm, and the sled from them will give you a pretty big discount, and might help you make the decision whether or not you want to go with this vest or that vest. Also, the lower-end rigs come with monitors, but the big rigs don't. And most people go with a trans video monitor, not only because they're super robust and bright, but they also have a digital level built in, which is really good for a Steadicam. I don't think any other monitors really have that. But some people have been going with other monitors. It's up to you. So once you get educated on the rig, go out and buy yourself one. But before you spend your whole budget on that, there's a lot of accessories you need also, and you can really get a lot of things for the rig. But there are certain things that you need on basically every job, and you should have day one. So let's talk about that.
You're going to need a stand. If you have a smaller rig, any C-stand will do, but for something supporting a lot of weight, you should get something strong. This is the American Grip Steadicam stand. I got the 14-inch straps, which means it's a bit wider stance, but I think it's worth it. It is also the 2-rise version, but because I have wheels, I rarely ever go that high. But it's nice to have if I don't use the wheels. You do not have to have the wheels day one, but it's a great upgrade worth getting right away. You're going to be moving this thing all over the place, and it's worth it. Also, to go with that, some sandbags. I have two 25-pound American Grip sandbags that I use, but I think that one would be fine. You are going to be asked to get the camera higher and to get the camera lower on jobs. So you should have in your kit a low mode bracket and a longer arm post to accommodate that. Make sure you get one that works with both your gimbal and your arm, because they are not all compatible. When picking out your rig, you have two options for power, gold mount or V-mount. Unless you already have a lot of V-mount batteries, you should go with gold mount. They vibrate less, and the V-mounts can sometimes fall off, especially in low mode. I recommend getting 100 watt-hours or less. This will allow you to fly on a plane with them, even though you'll have to put them in your carry-on. You'll also want to get all the same batteries, so that you can switch them out on your rig without having to rebalance just for that. I went with the HyperCore Slim batteries because they are very slim, and I like the way they look. Plus, I do find the screens on them useful. I recommend getting 4 batteries to start, and at minimum a 2-position charger, although a 4-position charger is better. I also carry some V-mount to gold converters in case if I get to charge my batteries the night before, I need to use some other ones. I've never had to use them, but they do help me sleep a little better at night. Now I don't suggest this for a beginner, but if you want to power the camera off the rig, you're going to need more batteries. I would recommend 8. You're also going to need to get specific cables for each camera you want to do that with, but it gets pretty expensive, so I don't recommend it for a beginner. You will also need cables to power your monitor. I recommend having a backup of this and an alternative so you can power from a different power output on your sled, just in case your output breaks or you need it for something else. Also, having some options with DTAP can bail you out of a problem. You also need to carry a bunch of short, thin, and bendable spaghetti-style SDI cables. These make keeping your rig neat much easier, and I guess save a couple of grams of weight. I recommend getting a bunch of different sizes and some with 90-degree ends. I also end up using a lot of these 90-degree SDI adapters that are worth keeping in your kit. You will also need to practice a lot, and to do that, you will need a practice cage. This simulates the weight and balance of a larger camera, but allows you to do it with a DSLR. To go in that, you should also have a camera to put in there for practicing. This can be any camera, and you probably already have one. There's no reason to go crazy with this, but it is best if the camera has zoom capability, so you can practice on different focal lengths. It should also have the capability of recording so that you can watch back your shots and see what to improve on. It also needs a video output so you can connect it to your monitor. An SDI out would be best, but it is safe for more expensive cameras, and it'll most likely have an HDMI out. So I recommend getting the Blackmagic HDMI to SDI converter, so you can run the signal down the inside of your post. An alternative to this is to get an older camera that would be cheap and have all the things that you need. The weight, SDI out, and a zoom lens, but watching playback off a tape is something I refuse to go back to. While not mandatory for day one, I would recommend an SOS plate. It stands for Steady on Sticks and saves a lot of time switching from Steadicam to a tripod, and is something I use on every job. It also encourages the DP to do a shot that should be on a tripod, because they know it won't take that much time to switch, saving your back. This is the CamJam version, and I really like it, but it is by far the most expensive way to do this, so I will also link to the other options. You will also need to carry tools on you for day-to-day activities. These will depend on the rig you have, but this is what I carry. I keep a long T-handle 1/4 inch Allen key to be able to adjust my socket block, and a 7/64 to adjust a few other things. In my case, I keep, most importantly, a set of Allen keys, and be careful to look for one that has all the sizes you need, because I notice most kits are missing ones that I use all the time, like 7/64. I also keep a vice grip in the kit, because you can fix anything with one. It's just going to get very scratched up. I also keep a screwdriver with multiple tips. I really like this Wyra screwdriver that fits in my case and has all the heads I would need. I also have a very small number 0 tip Phillips head screwdriver for all the small screws. Plus it looks like his baby brother, and that's just cute. I keep a 11/32, a 3/8, and a 5/16 for different reasons, along with a 3/8 nut driver, and a bunch of tools that came with my rig, like the gimbal tool, the arm tool, this thing. I also keep some grease pencils to mark the balance point of different lenses on my rig for faster lens changes, as well as a black Sharpie and a silver Sharpie, mostly for writing my name on water bottles. You should also keep in your kit some extra screws for mounting a camera. They get lost sometimes, and it's worth spending a few extra bucks to not have to crawl around through the dirt looking for it. You also want to save room in the budget for casing everything, and it gets very expensive. There are many options for this, but I like Pelican cases with either custom foam or the Trek Pack divider system. I like to avoid the pull and pluck foam because it doesn't last very long. I also put lots of labeled, smaller cases inside of my case. It makes it easier not only for me, but for an AC to find things, and most importantly, put them away. I also recommend having a RoboCup. They're pretty cheap, and having water, Gatorade, and coffee on your dock is really a lifesaver. And it will remind you to drink more often, preventing you from getting dehydrated. You should also pick up a headlamp. You will strike your rig in complete darkness more often than you would think. And I might have put that in with the tools, but I forgot about it.
There are a lot of other add-ons that you can get for your rig that'll make it even better, but aren't necessary for your first day. Remember, everything I talked about is linked in the description below. And now that you're completely out of money, why don't you do something for free and like this video and subscribe to my channel. And also check out my Instagram @SteadyRed. And if you like this video, you'll probably like some of these other videos too. I mean, YouTube thinks you'll like this one. Are you gonna call them a liar? That's rude. Oh yeah, that one. I check it out. I mean, I've seen it, but it's pretty good.